This is the Simpit. I'm your host, Sean Cole, but the real star of today's show is the wonderful selection of accessories that RSeat has made available for the new P1 chassis. Now, we just very recently reviewed the P1 chassis, and you'll find a link to that review in the description of the show right here. But the RSeat P1 chassis is a rock-solid, highly adjustable sim chassis on its own, but you can take it from the standard chassis all the way to the Rolls-Royce of chassis with a great selection of accessories that you can buy individually to suit your needs. Like the chassis, the accessories are all made of heavy-duty steel and powder-coated for a long life finish. The selection of accessories for the P1 are based on what sim racers need beyond the standard steering wheel and pedal set. We're talking about things like an integrated monitor stand that'll handle a 49-inch curved monitor, and that mount goes for $199 or €169. There's also an articulating keyboard and mouse tray that will swing right over your lap, allowing for easy typing and general gaming. That is also $199 or €169. There's a super beefy, super adjustable handbrake and shifter mount that will mount on the left or right hand side and is built for most handbrakes and shifters on the market, and that goes for $199 or €169. And then there's the dual button box tablet mount or other mount that can be used for a variety of things that you want facing the driver. This mount is $199 or €169. And then RSeat has a Buttkicker Mount for the P1 chassis that bolts directly under the seat and will work with bolt-on or clamp-on units. This mount costs $99 or €84. And then finally, the Simucube / Midge motor mount that goes for $59 or €50 that I actually used in my full review of the chassis. All of the accessories that I received for my chassis were in the black variation, but they're also available in white. You'll just have to select the white chassis if you're buying it with the chassis, or go to the white version of all these products on the main page under accessories. Now, before I go through all of these parts one by one thing I can say about them is there is a common thing, and they are all overbuilt or heavy duty, just like the RSeat P1 chassis itself. We're talking about heavy gauge steel that's powder coated in black or white, and all of the plates are thick and well supported. In fact, we're adding nearly 95 pounds or 43 kilograms of overall weight to the chassis, and that doesn't even include our components that we're going to be installing onto these mounts. So this lets you know all the accessories that are available and their pricing, but I want to go through them one by one, talk about their installation, their adjustability, and their sizing. That way you can know if each component is the right component for you, because you can purchase them all individually, a la carte. Starting off with what I think is really traditionally the first upgrade that people are going to do, that being a shifter and handbrake mount. Traditionally, that's been the first upgrade that we do as sim racers, and this is a super beefy, and honestly, it's overbuilt by quite a bit and will add about 26.5 pounds or 12 kilograms to the rig without your equipment. The shifter handbrake mount might be the strongest part of the whole chassis. You can mount equipment with the strongest of tensions here with confidence. Looking at the list of compatible shifters, handbrakes, it works with all of the market-leading products. The mount attaches to the left or right-hand side of the chassis, with the upright piece mounting to the chassis with 6 heavy-duty bolts, 4 into the side and 2 onto the top. Then mounted to that upright are the 2 adjustable height bars for the deck itself. This can be mounted forward or backward into different slots onto the mount and onto the deck, giving the drivers the ability to move the whole plate front to back 7.5 inches or 190 millimeters. The way these dual adapters work, you can actually put a bit of angle on the deck, or you can adjust its height by about 1 inch or 25.5 millimeters up and down. On its own, the deck is about 13 inches or 330 millimeters long by 6.5 inches or 165 millimeters wide. There are then 2 different adapters that can be added to the deck, starting with a smaller adapter that rises over the deck by another 1.5 inches or 38 millimeters. It is a small little plate that only measures in at 5 by 5 or 127 by 127 millimeters long and wide. The small mount is drilled out for most of the common shifters, and the second adapter actually mounts the deck and raises and widens the deck to the outside. This step is another 2.5 inches or 63.5 millimeters higher than the main deck and is the same length as the main deck at 13 inches or 330 millimeters by 5 inches or 127 millimeters wide. When it comes to mounting shifters and handbrakes, you have a whole lot of options when it comes to placement and drilling patterns on the adapters and the plates themselves. In my case, I was going to be using the AIO log shifter, and it actually has a somewhat unorthodox mounting mechanism. It has a plate that has the shifter hanging off of the mounting point. It still lines up with Thrustmaster shifter holes, and I was able to use 2 bolts to secure it firmly. I could then figure out the front to back distance that I needed the shifter mount, and then bolt the small plate down to the main plate. I also want to use my monster size and monsterly powerful Rickmotec hydraulic handbrake. Again, this is an unconventional mounting pattern coming from outside of our industry. But the nice thing about the upper plate is it has a bunch of random holes, even spaced with angles as well as straight forward, which is perfect for my brake. I found 2 holes that lined up with it, gave it the right angle and distance, and I bolted it down as well. The integrated monitor stand is another very beefy, or I dare say overbuilt unit, coming in at 15.4 pounds or 7 kilograms. It actually bolts to the underside of the wheel mount, or the upright for the wheel mount, and in order to do this, you actually have to remove all of the hardware for the wheel mount itself. The monitor mount comes with the needed hardware pre-installed, so I removed those 4 bolts and then held the mount in place and got a couple of those bolts going. It uses 4 really heavy bolts, and when all are tightened, it mounts the 2 surfaces together very firmly. Pre-mounted to the monitor mount as well is the Visa adapter with 200 by 200 and 300 by 300 bolt patterns built in and its mount. The monitor side of the Visa adapter bolts to the mount with 4 bolts, and that can be installed onto the back of your monitor. The Visa mount itself can then be mounted into one of a series of slots, giving you 6 choices of positions at 1.5 inches or 38 millimeters of intervals for a range of 7 inches or 170 millimeters of up and down for the monitor. The monitor's Visa adapter then hooks onto the mount and uses 4 heavy-duty bolts to secure it in place. I found that with my 49-inch curved monitor, I was in the middle range of height or mounting placement, giving me both up and down freedom. The keyboard and mouse tray is mounted on a double articulating arm, which is one of my favorite upgrades that you could do for the P1 chassis, and it is heavy duty, coming in at about 24.25 pounds or 11 kilograms, and has a mounting bracket that attaches to the underside of the wheel deck upright with a single bolt, and it can be mounted on either the left or right hand side of the rig. The arm of the keyboard tray then bolts down to that adapter, and voila, you have a keyboard tray. Coming off the mount, the articulating arm sticks straight out wide from the chassis. It then has a double plated joint that feeds into the second arm. At that joint, the arm can bend any forward or backward direction that you want. That then leads to a second double plated joint that holds the actual keyboard tray. This joint also may be moved to any angle from back to front and then holds on to the actual keyboard mount. With this mount, you can install or adjust the tray from flat to a little bit of angle facing towards you. The tray itself measures in at 28 inches or 710 millimeters wide by almost 8 inches or 195 millimeters tall. I found this plenty large enough for my keyboard, mouse pad, and mouse with no problem. In fact, there was still enough leftover room to hold a pen or thumb drive with them. With its articulated arm, the keyboard can be pulled in all the way over your lap. I would even push my seat back at times and have the keyboard and mouse placed well enough to type emails, edit shows, or even play other non-sim racing games in comfort. When not needing the keyboard, I can push it away from me, or create the right angles to hold it right off my side, ready to be used if needed while driving. The tablet button box mount is, again, I dare say, overbuilt, and it is heavy duty, not lightweight, coming in at 15.5 or another 7 kilograms added to the weight of the chassis. Now, it can be mounted on the left or right or opposite of the keyboard, depending on how you mounted the keyboard or if you're using both. In fact, you could buy 2 tablet mounts and skip the keyboard. You could buy 2 keyboard holders and skip the tablet mount, but it mounts up to the chassis much in the same way. You have the mount that goes to the underside of the wheel upright, and then the arm of the tablet mount bolts to that mount. The arm then sticks out to the side of the rig and has another one of those double-plated joints leading to a second arm. That second arm can then be moved left and right to any angle, and at the end of that arm is the double tablet mount that bolts to the arm. This mount can then be pivoted to any angle in relationship to the driver, and on top of it sits a dual device mount. This mount will accept a wide variety of phones, tablets, button boxes, stream decks, anything you need in that kind of shape, with each side having a mounting area of between 4 inches and 102 millimeters on its narrowest, and as wide as 8.2 inches or 210 millimeters tall. As this unit is built to hold a wide variety of products, RSeat has designed a dual clamp mechanism to slightly sandwich the device into place. You can adjust the top and bottom of this clamp independently, and then you have a left and right hand side to work with. I was going to be using a Rickmotec Slim Box and either a tablet or a Stream Deck in these spots. When I look at the clamping area, I can see that the clamps are about 2 inches or 51 millimeters thick. My Slim Box is much narrower than that, so that won't be an issue at all. On the surfaces of the clamp are rubber strips that will offer a little bit of compression on the fit as well as a bit of cushioning. The operation of the clamps is kind of weird. They don't hold in place while you're tightening the mechanism, and it took a few attempts to get it tight enough to hold the box, as I was concerned I might crush the box while doing it. In the end, these clamps never actually moved in that direction. In fact, when tightening, it was the opposite, with them always wanting to pull away, not swish the box. But after a handful of attempts, I did finally get a good grip on the box that held it firmly in place. When I did the same thing for my tablet, I found a nice slot or groove between the rubber strips that held it perfectly. When this was done nicely, I found I could actually slide the tablet out of the rig when not racing, and then just slide it back in when needed. Mounting my Stream Deck was much like the box, and several attempts later, I had a good fit, but it did take a while and many attempts. Once happy with the mount, you can then tilt each side of the mount independently if you want a little angle on either side. And again, the entire unit can be twisted left or right to your desire. And the next accessory up for the P1 chassis is the Buttkicker Mount. Now this is a good, rock solid mount, and it's in a good position, and ultimately you could bolt any kind of transducer to it or use it as the mounting location. But it is built specifically for the Buttkicker, and it has 2 separate bars allowing you to mount multiple of the clamp-on style onto the rig, and it's also pre-drilled out for the bolt-on style Buttkicker. This mount is also made of that powder-coated steel and adds 6.5 pounds or 3 kilograms to the chassis. It bolts onto the rig in a perfect spot right beneath the seat. It's a super solid mount that transfers the energy right into the chassis and into the seat first. Once you have the butt kickers of your choice mounted to the unit, it just bolts in with 4 bolts. I found it much easier to remove the seat and then add the mount with that extra clearance. And the final accessory for the P1 chassis that we actually did cover and use in our full review was the Simucube OSW Midge motor mount. And this is again a beefy, overbuilt, I'm running out of words, stout. This is a very stout mount that is solid steel that is welded together into one piece. It weighs in at 6.5 pounds or 3 kilograms on its own, and it has 2 different front mount hole patterns in it for common OSW style direct drive wheels. It is also drilled out to directly bolt onto the RSeat wheel deck. It has a low profile design and only slightly raises the height of the wheel when bolted up to it. That was pretty simple and pretty straightforward, and it did a great job of holding the wheel and maintaining the RSeat look at the same time. With all of these accessories added to the rig, we've increased the weight by almost 100 pounds, and we have increased the price quite a bit. With all 6 of these upgrades, you're looking at $954 in total. Of course, you can buy them a la carte, and that brings our total cost to $2,153. Now, I know that sounds or seems expensive, and you know what? Downright is. But we've thrown everything at it. We've added all of the accessories. You might not even need all of them. But if you do, look at this thing. This is a self-contained, everything you could possibly throw at a sim rig, mounted, installed in one piece. It's just a bundle of wires leading to the computer. That's all we have left. So with that, we actually have increased the size of the rig quite a bit. I mean, it is small footprint considering everything that's here, but with the keyboard fully tucked in, you're still talking about it sticking out an additional 10 inches or 254 millimeters off to the side of the rig. The same is true of the tablet mount, adding another 10 inches or 254 millimeters of width to the rig. With both items added, it takes the entire chassis to about 78.7 inches or 200 centimeters wide. To finish things off today, I want to one by one go through each of these components and talk about how it performed out on track, or in some cases, it might not even always be on track. It might be multi-use. So let's talk about each thing in the same order that we went with, starting off with the shifter handbrake. The shifter mount is really solid. It is as strong as the rig itself, and once mounted, it's immovable. It gives more than enough front to back adjustment, and having a bit of angle adjustment is really nice as well. It did hold on to both my devices as strongly as any mount I've ever used, and it has the largest platform, giving you endless freedom to mount various different pieces. However, that comes at the price of being a bit bulky. This is a massive structure, and for those using a lightweight shifter and handbrake like a Thrustmaster, Logitech, or the Fanatic offerings, it is overkill for the job. But if you use a heavy detent shifter or a hydraulic brake, then it is finally the one strong enough to do the job for both at the same time. The integrated monitor stand did a really good job of holding the monitor steadily while driving. I was a little concerned that its distance would be right because there is no front to back adjustability in the setup, but for that size monitor, it was almost ideal, and it had all the freedom I needed in up and down adjustment and would work for any size driver, and it allowed me to get it to very closely over the top of my wheelbase. I like the way the Visa adapter hangs onto the mount before bolting it, and that allowed me to install a rather heavy monitor solo. The up and down adjustment is done fairly easy by just moving that mount, and it worked out great for my testing as well. When it came down to driving, I was very happy with the positioning, and with the bottom of my monitor being so close to my wheelbase, it allowed me to verify that the monitor was holding nicely and not wiggling around. It was very solid, very well placed, and very nicely integrated into the rig itself. In fact, the mount is solid enough that not only will it hold that monitor, but even if someone rested on it or bumped into the monitor, it wouldn't just give away or break away. Very solid. The articulated arm keyboard and mouse tray is hands down one of my favorite that I've ever tested. Now, it's a similar design to previous models, but it has an amazing amount of reach and pivotability. While driving, I can actually double that arm back and get it off to the left side out of my way, but within reach while driving. If I need to make a setup change or type a message, it's just sitting right there. Under the heaviest of loads, there is a bit of vibration or movement on the deck, just slightly, but with the raised edge that goes all the way around it, it prevents anything from actually falling off. But I do keep it flat to prevent that and prevent the mouse from moving around unnecessarily. And then, for it to actually pull all the way over my lap, it just makes this the perfect keyboard holder. I can do anything from my rig. The tablet and button box mount is a really cool concept, and in the end it did work out quite well. but it was in the end, and after many attempts and a lot of patience to get it just right. I think in the case of a scenario where you're using a tablet and you need to be able to pull it off the rig, it's a great solution. For a long-term button box, maybe something more affixed might be better, but it did work out, and it did hold my button box. It still holds it perfectly. I can reach out, operate my buttons. It's never moved at all. Now there is a little bit of a hint of wiggle. The whole thing's mounted on the end of an arm, so when you drive there is a little bit of vibration going on, and sometimes when you press it, it's not the firmest mount that I've ever tested, but it was one of the easiest to work with any component, and it was really easy to get it dialed in and facing me just right. I would like it a little bit closer to me, but with a larger or thicker button box, that would automatically get it closer. And again, I did love being able to just slide my tablet out when I wasn't going to be using it for sim racing. So that takes us to the Buttkicker and the motor mount. And what can I say? They're both extremely rock solid. There's not a lot to tell you about them other than they perfectly do their job. In the case of the motor mount, again, super solid. It's built for those specific wheels, and it was simple as bolting it on and you're up and running. And in the case of the Buttkicker, same thing, perfect placement, right where you get that vibration under the seat, right where you want it, and very easy to install. Rock solid, done in minutes, ta-da, you're up and running. So I hope, or I think that tells you everything that you need to know about the beautiful P1 chassis with all of its accessories added to it. The great thing is they are all a la carte components, so you can get the ones you need or none of them at all. The P1 chassis on its own is great, and these things only make it that much better. Each one on its own adds to the overall look of the chassis. One by one, as we add more to the rig, it transforms from great to downright over the top. This is a cockpit. This is having everything you need right at your fingertips or right within reach. And every single one of them doing it in that typical RSeat rock solid way. Well, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the show, and be sure to head over to rseat.net where you can check out the P1 chassis as well as the other chassis available from RSeat and all of the accessories for their chassis as part of their brand new lineup for 2021. Please take the time to subscribe, thumbs up, like, share, tell a friend what we're doing. All that goes a long way to support us here at the Simpit. And of course, check us out at patreon.com/thesimpit where you can join up and get exclusive giveaways, patron races, and early access to nearly all of our videos. All the links to relevant videos will be in the video description below. Thank you for watching. This is the Simpit. I'm Sean Cole, and I'll see you on the track.